everybody. Today I wanted to talk about a common theme that I see amongst people that have sustained their health and their nutrition and their wellness and their fitness over a long period of time. And by that I mean maybe 5, 10, 20 years. And so I think what's so important to realize when you're thinking about changing your health in some kind of way is considering the long-term sustainable adherence to whatever you're going to follow, whether it's a diet, whether it's a different kind of protocol that's new to you. And what matters is finding something that's sustainably that's adherable over a long period of time, not just something that's going to get you a quick fix for a month and then you just know you're going to get set back to where you once were. And so really what I'm emphasizing is that in this country, with health and with keeping weight off and staying healthy and stuff, people can get healthy. People can lose weight really quickly. They can get motivated to change something for an event or for some kind of person or something like that, and maybe change and improve their weight or their health or their energy and whatever, their skin, or look better in 2, 3, 4 months. But what matters is finding something that you can do over years and years and years and sustain long-term health and maintain your health in a way that's going to be paying off 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and that you can maintain day in and day out. And so how I want to illustrate this is through 3 levers. And how I want to emphasize this is that each person that I know or I follow in the nutrition industry, or people I know, my friends, my family, things like that, they're usually pulling one of these 3 levers. And you could consider the levers as like sacrifices, because anything meaningful in life requires sacrifice, and change comes about through sacrifice and choosing a different direction. And so these three levers I'm going to illustrate as the food group lever, the macronutrient lever, and the time restricted eating lever. And so for the first one, the food group lever, you could just think of as diets. You think of a whole foods plant-based diet, you think of a carnivore diet, you think of a ketogenic diet, there's so many other different diets out there. But this food group lever, these people are pulling food groups out that are usually preventing them from overeating. And why people overeat, in my opinion, is because they're combining fats and carbohydrates, which are very hyper palatable. They're very easy to overeat when you combine both. For example, if you take a baked potato, just a boiled baked potato, it's very hard to overeat them. You're going to eat them until you feel full. Your stomach's going to feel full because they're very high in volume and low in calories. And once you begin to process this food, you're adding in fat. And so what you're doing is you're making it more palatable, and it's higher calorie, and it's even less satiating than the original whole food. And so for a baked potato, it's going to be French fries down to potato chips. And as you continue to process it, the calories are going higher and the satiation is going lower. So you're not going to get as full on more calories and more volume of potatoes and French fries and potato chips. And so these people that pull the food group lever are pulling food groups out of their diet that are usually causing them to overeat. And so what I mean by that is, so you look at a whole foods plant-based diet, they're pulling out dairy, they're pulling out high-fat meats and stuff like that, and they're eating whole foods and they're avoiding processed foods. So when you're cutting out food groups, especially foods that are just high in fat and high in sugar, you're going to improve your health pretty drastically. And just eating a diet that's like very ancestrally appropriate. And what I mean by that is that in nature, you don't find foods that are high in fat and high in carbohydrates. So if you go back 1,000 years and you found a tribe down at the equator, and they're in a tropical environment where there's fruit and starches and things like that in the rainforest, and then maybe some fish or whatever, they're eating foods that are they're just whole foods that our bodies can, use hunger signals to appropriately assess how much they need to eat. Fruit, for example, is high in sugar, but it's low in fat. You think of like animal products, they're usually higher in fat and high in protein and low in carbohydrates. And so what I'm trying to get at is when you pull food groups out that prevent you from adding up fat and sugar. So carnivore, you're going to get high fat and high protein, and you're going to keep the carbohydrates low. With a vegan diet, you're going to have high carbohydrates and moderate protein, and you're going to keep fats low. And you're going to be you're pushing yourself towards eating whole foods, and you're pulling out things like, whether it's the carnivore diet or vegan diet, they're both avoiding hyperpalatable processed food, whether it's ice cream or donuts or chips or things like that, done correctly, and they're automatically going to improve their health because they're avoiding super hyperpalatable foods that are causing them to overeat. So that's a food group lever. So pulling out food groups that are preventing you from eating high fat and high sugar, high carbohydrate. Number 2 is the macronutrient lever. It's pretty similar. Maybe it's just not as restrictive. But what I see is, for example, people either are going to naturally be inclined more towards higher fat foods, and they're going to keep carbohydrates low. They're going to avoid breads and pastas like that, and just grains and high carbohydrate foods. Or they're going to eat a higher carbohydrate, it's either going to be usually higher protein, higher fat, or higher carbohydrate, higher protein. And so avoiding the two, picking your poison in terms of your energy source of fat or carbohydrates, and keeping the other one low is going to prevent you from overeating. So I think of the bodybuilding industry and fitness and stuff like that. Those people are focusing on a high carbohydrate, high protein diet to keep performance high, but to keep calories low. They focus on high volume, low calorie foods like potatoes and fruit and chicken and things like that are very satiating, and they're going to keep you full and keeping fats low. And then for like a low carb person that likes to just they find more satisfaction and satiation in eating fattier steaks and nuts and seeds and avocados and butter and things like that in their diet, but they need to keep something lower like breads and carbohydrates and fats and stuff like that. So that's number 2. Most commonly I see, so it's similar to food group 1, but it's maybe not as restrictive. They're still going to maybe live that 90-10 or 80-20 rule, where they're following that method of nutrition for 80 or 90% of the time, and then the other 10-20% they're allowing themselves to enjoy. But the third, final one, which is the one I follow, I think it's the one I find easiest to follow, and it's just what works for me, is the time-restricted eating. It's a time-restricted eating lever, and what that is just crunching your eating window down to a specific period of time, so you're keeping yourself responsible to not just mindlessly eat at midnight and get a snack or whatever when you wake up at 2 a.m. hungry. So what I do is I follow usually like an 18-6 method, which is just I fast about 18 hours out of the day. So what that looks like is I'm probably done with dinner by 7 o'clock and done eating the rest of the night. I find, when I don't eat through the late into the night, I sleep better. And then I just fast through about 12 or 1 o'clock the next day, break my fast, and have focus on a nutrient-dense whole foods, for the most part, diet with lunch and dinner. And I just find you're cutting out, not only are you cutting out just a lot of mindless snacking, but you're cutting out a meal, which essentially allows you a little more wiggle room with the other meals. And that's not to say you can just eat whatever you want. If you cut a third of your meals out, or one whole meal out of your diet, you're typically still going to eat a lot of food. You're still going to eat a good amount, but it makes you kind of focus on eating very nutrient dense when you're eating in a smaller window. I find it just more satisfying. I don't cut food groups out or macronutrients out. That's kind of what I follow, and I find just good, sustainable enjoyment over a long period of time. So those are the 3 food groups, and at the end of the day, they're each restricting calories in some kind of way, and that's ultimately what's usually leading to better health. And what I don't want that to sound is what I don't want to make that sound like is that just pulling calories down is automatically going to improve your health. Your health is so much more than just keeping calories low or losing weight. Your health is about your energy. It's about your energy and your relationships and how you feel, your digestive system, your skin health, your workout performance, and so many other aspects of your life. But what I just want to recognize is that when I see people that have long-term health, I usually see them pulling one of these three levers. And sometimes people are pulling two and sometimes they're pulling three. But at the end of the day, I think each one of these levers is getting at something, which is you need to find a way to not just leave up. You need to put kind of a fence up around your diet in terms of, if you just have a free reign for eating whatever you want, whenever you want, however much you want, you're going to just find yourself going towards processed food because it's just super addictive and it's super hyper palatable. And the people that usually have higher amounts of processed food in their diet are going to struggle with their weight and struggle with their health more, just simply because they're so easy to overeat and they're easy to just, overeat, gain weight, and go in a vicious cycle where you just feel like your appetite is vicious and you just feel like you can't overcome anything. So to review those the three levers, the macronutrient lever, the food group lever, or the time restricted eating lever, pulling one of those, finding which one you pull is up to you, but it ultimately is typically going to improve your health through caloric restriction, through avoiding processed food, through avoiding high fat, high carb foods all the time. So I hope I found this is helpful to you guys. If you guys want more videos, please subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.